Is the tight labor market frustrating you as a business owner? Do you have employees leaving for $1 to $2 extra per hour? Mako RX Complete Care is a quality healthcare solution that has allowed businesses to recruit and retain employees. To learn how Mako RX can help your business stay competitive, visit mako-rx.com or call 855-562-5679. Mako RX, Healthcare Simplified.
What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, we have two guests who are building their startup, which is called Cardstalk, and they're changing the way that you're going to be buying greeting cards and how changing the way that retailers are going to be selling them to you. Steph and Brandon Prime are going to be joining us today on the Entrepreneur Exchange. Plus, we've got some interesting small businesses that you should be checking out on our Small Business of the Month feature. My name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is now the executive dean of the Corporate Development Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. Gary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great and perfect on the title. You notice we've shrunk it so it's a little bit easier for us to remember.
Well, your title is constantly changing because that's much cheaper than giving you more money.
That's exactly right.
They give you more titles.
We keep taking things and moving them to us and our team, so it's a good thing. We're adding responsibility, but so the title changes a little bit each week. But that's a good thing.
Well, I know that you had an exciting time last week because you and the Catawba Valley Community College team participated in the North Carolina Skills USA program and did very, very well. How many medals did we collect this year?
Well, thank you for letting us talk about that. Yes, we're so proud of our Skills USA program, which again, of course, it focuses on technical programs, but it also focuses on leadership programs. And so with our 5,000 students across campus, it's the best organization for us to be working with because we can have people compete anywhere from accounting all the way to welding and everything in between, as well as college transfer. And so they get to show off their skills in many different ways, like in public speaking, entrepreneurship, which we'll talk about in a few seconds. But yes, we broke our own state record. We won 51 medals.
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And 19 first gold medals and 15 silver medals. And so the 19 gold medal winners will go to nationals in Atlanta.
And for the second year in a row, our Catawba Valley team won the gold medal in entrepreneurship.
Yes, absolutely. And, of course, our entrepreneurship team has been very strong under your leadership over the last several years, finishing first, second, or third in the state as well as at nationals. So we're very proud of you.
Well, and Christy Lefevre's led the team this year, so we're proud of Christy. But that will serve as our transition to talk to some actual entrepreneurs that we've got with us today. So let's welcome our guests, Steph and Brandon Prime. Steph and Brandon, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing great.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Steph and Brandon are founders and owners of Cardstalk, a startup business that they founded in Asheville, North Carolina. They both have IT backgrounds, degrees from North Carolina State University, and
Go Wolfpack.
Yeah, go Wolfpack. And you guys have worked with several technology companies from Amazon to others, and I've been in the Northwest and came back to North Carolina. Founded Cardstalk in 2020, and tell us a little bit about how Cardstalk came about, and tell our listeners what Cardstalk is. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having us on the program. It was really great to meet you at Hickory Hub and just kind of get plugged into all the great stuff that's happening here. To give you a little bit of background about who we are and how this came to be, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We're techies. I actually did kind of like DevOps work for Amazon Web Services, And Brandon, tell them about what you did.
So I worked on Amazon Go, which is basically Amazon's just walk out automated grocery retailer store. So it's kind of a smaller footprint grocery store concept with a lot of prepared foods and basically just quick grab and go items. But basically I worked on that almost 5 years ago, and they're actually starting to expand now to multiple stores after their Whole Foods acquisitions. But it was a really cool way to learn about smart retail and just work on some really interesting projects.
Yeah, and so when we kind of approach this, it's one of those things where it's like the basic idea of Cardstalk is like almost Redbox for greeting cards. So they're actually printed on demand. That it's actually local artists and independent artists. You browse through them, select which card that you want, and you print it there. 100% recycled paper it's printed on, and very premium quality cards. And it was kind of born out of the typical frustration just after years of buying cards and it never actually getting better. I remember one year my mom actually apologized to me on my birthday because the card that she found at the grocery store was just so bad. And so thinking of it as a tech person, like I kind of came at it from the angle of thinking about cloud computing and about how can you use resources more efficiently? How can we use networks to actually include people instead of exclude them, which was a big driving force behind Cardstalk. Because like I said, I think our main value that's really resonating people is actually the local artist kind of angle. The fact that people can just go into an Earth Fair in Asheville and look at amazing, designs by people who are actually in their community and feel good about supporting them. So that's a little bit about what Cardstalk is.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to find and basically you're working to get into retailers at this point in time, and it sounds like you've gotten a little bit of traction in the Asheville area. Is that correct?
Yeah. So actually, we actually came to Asheville first in 2020 and kind of got plugged into the venture community here with Venture Asheville, Elevate Asheville. The Chamber of Commerce actually helped us make an introduction to Earth Fair, and they were actually just really into the idea because their aisle is, I think, about 16 linear feet. Our kiosk is 3 feet, right? So they were thinking about how can they use their space more efficiently? How can they make their customers happier? And that pilot kiosk has actually only been there since November, but it's actually been performing really well. We did the math on holiday sales, so right before the week before Christmas, and actually our profit per foot was about neck and neck with the 16-foot aisle they had there forever. So like I said, we're seeing a lot of interest there, and we're just starting to reach out to more retailers who are really plugged into the local scene, who are looking for ways to save floor space. There's actually a statistic where if you're an independent pharmacy and you want a Hallmark aisle, they require at least 24 feet. So that's a lot of linear feet that could be put into, more valuable things. And just having the flexibility is just so valuable these days.
Well, as someone that used to, in part of my career used to be in selling into major retailers like Walmart and Target, understanding the value of that retail space, is very important. And if there's a way that you can give some of that space back to them, but maintain the sales through your kiosk, I would think that's a very valuable approach to them. But I guess you've got to sell to more than one customer. You've got to be able to convince the retailer that this is a good deal for them. You also have to educate, I would think, the end consumer a bit to say, this isn't how I'm used to buying cards. How do you sort of bring them into the process and get them comfortable with it? I suspect some of the younger people are more tech savvy than older people like Gary and I, who get allergies if we have to do too much with the technologies. How do you sort of get people comfortable with that?
That's totally fair question. To answer your second part first, I think when we designed Cardstalk, it was we understand this is going to be a very novel experience. People have tried to do kiosks in the past, but technology obviously back when I think Hallmark tried to do a kiosk in like the early 2000s, just tech wasn't there yet. But as far as the way we design Cardstalk, it's on your you can use it on your smartphone. You can go to the browser website. The tablet that is on the kiosk itself is actually the same application that we have on the website. So it's a pretty uniform experience. But the way it was designed was effectively to be very similar to Netflix or Hulu in the way that you actually use the app. So it feels pretty intuitive. A lot of older people who use it, they say it feels just like using something like that. And the goal when you're designing these things is not to require your new users to learn a lot of information to buy your product. And so
that's good
we designed intentionally around them. Yeah. I mean, I guess sorry, I forgot your phrasing for the first part of the question, but
well, just talking about the retailers and how you can make better use of their space by making the case that you can use less space but generate the sales.
I think So there's a couple angles here. So just for some background information, greeting cards, pretty much research shows like about 50% of people buy online, like e-cards, and then the other 50% of people, they're buying brick and mortar, going to CVS or Walmart and buying those cards and taking them home. And it's actually really interesting because a lot of people online who actually do buy online would actually prefer to pick up in store. It's actually a very, very high preference rate. Something like 90% of people really don't like waiting 3 to 5 days to get their cards. And so a big thing for retailers, on top of what Stephanie was saying earlier with shrinking floor space and providing more cards and less space, is really about bringing in online foot traffic, people who otherwise wouldn't be coming in, because to grocery stores, greeting cards are not a huge profit center. They're much more about the attachment rate, what comes with the card. It's a box of chocolate for Valentine's Day. It's a bottle of wine for an anniversary. It's Christmas presents, obviously, things like that.
We have Mother's Day coming up too.
I was going to say this is a perfect fit for me.
True. Flowers,
yeah, and we've got some great cards for Mother's Day up too. And I don't think Brandon dropped the domain name yet, so I want to mention that because anyone's wondering. It's hard to hearing it. It's hard to know how it's spelled. It's cardstalk.ink.
It's like a beanstalk.
.ink.
I know. Well, it was the ink that screwed me up at first when I was searching for you guys. It's cardstalk.ink, but the ink is INK. People probably hear it and they assume INC, but it's INK.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So you guys started this venture in 2020. In terms of funding, you mentioned getting connected into the entrepreneurship community in Asheville, which is really a very vibrant, thriving community up there. Tell us a little bit about as you developed the business and search for your initial funding. How did you go about that, and what were some of the successes that you had and lessons that you might have learned that might help people listening?
Yeah, well, fundraising and in general investment is something that's, I think, we're still learning about and still working on. And when we started in June 2020, we got a micro grant from Venture Asheville. And if you look at a lot of community-based kind of micro grants, and that means it was about a $5,000 non-dilutive grant that we applied for and were basically selected out of a large group for. And that helped us actually fund the initial kind of kiosk prototyping, bringing on artists. And the other one was the NC Idea Micro Grant. That's another org, very similar. And that was $10,000. And besides that, it's actually been bootstrapped by what we've actually had ourselves. So we're trying to, be really picky about having mission aligned kind of investors. And we want to be sure we're in a place where our expansion plan is ready to go. So that means finding that next partner first. We're even looking at ways to improve the experience of the kiosk before going out. One of the things we learned, actually, because when you're starting anything like this, funding including, just talk to as many people as possible. And we talked to someone who was the VP of sales at Redbox back in the day. And he said that just get those unit economics down as tight as you can. And then when you have those unit economics that can turn into sales, then it becomes much more attractive.
Yeah, and to go back to your point earlier about how you approach retailers, I think it's interesting because we like to say we're the Redbox of greeting cards, but there is a fundamental retailer difference in that back when Redbox was coming out, it was kind of the blockbuster times. Most grocery stores did not have dedicated video rental aisles, and so the sales strategy for Redbox is very, very different than what we're doing, where we're coming in and trying to replace a currently existing consumer packaged good. And so, there's some interesting things and some lessons you can learn. But not everything's applicable, even though you would think that the business model is very similar.
Well, I would think I would think the Red Box experience is more incremental sales, while as you said, you're trying to replace people that probably don't appreciate that.
Fair enough.
So,
yeah. You want to go back to the investment though?
Oh yeah. No, I was actually going to mention too as well. So one of the first things that we kind of after we got into Earth Fair and we started thinking about funding, because obviously you need to start raising before you need it. We actually got introduced to Incolo in Raleigh, and I think they used to be Invest Local NC. But basically, what Incolo kind of does is they kind of educate on this new era of regulation CF crowdfunding for fundraising, and it's a very, very interesting space just because it's very new. It's only I think it's only been legal for about 5 years from the SEC. And it's really providing a very interesting way to not just raise money, but I think frame the narrative of your company. It's a lot less, I think, structured and rigid with your traditional private equity kind of pitching. And it's much more like personal, explaining why your company exists. And it's a very, I think for a founder, it's a much easier way to start the ball rolling. I think in reality, it's more of a glorified friends and family round, but it does give you a lot of really cool things that are good. Like your cap tables all reduced to one entry. There's some really nice little benefits you get from doing a Reg CF. And so that was just one of the first early resources that we really looked into.
I got a shout out to Mountain BizWorks. We actually learned about that from their Invested program. It's just a course where you can learn about crowdfunding. And I definitely think that there's a lot of companies, especially small ones, who it's worth just looking into, knowing all your options before thinking you have to go immediately to like a VC.
Yeah.
Well, you've mentioned several different resources that it sounds like you've benefited from in Asheville, also Mountain BizWorks, which I guess is regional, but I think maybe headquartered in Asheville. Are there other entrepreneurial resources that you've tapped into as you've progressed that have had a benefit to you or value to you guys?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, the NC Idea program was very, very interesting. We got into the micro grant with that, and that I think that's interesting because we are Western North Carolina, but we went to college in Raleigh. We had a lot of Raleigh contacts, and so I think tapping in through NC Idea was very interesting because when we were in Raleigh before the pandemic started, I think that the entrepreneurial scene was just starting to kind of really get kind of going as far as money coming in and people setting up a lot of let's say headliner kind of programs. And being able to tap back in that in the middle of the pandemic, I think was very, very interesting because it made us, it was hard being a business owner, during the pandemic. You don't get as much face-to-face contact. It wasn't as good. So that was just a very nice relationship with them, and going through that program was really cool.
Well, and you say that in that you guys started in March 2020. That's pretty much, you started the business right during the pandemic. I mean, was that
by design?
I mean,
well, I was planning on it in January. That's when I quit my full-time remote job that was nice and comfy, not knowing the pandemic was about to happen in January. But it was one of those things where we just kept working on it, and we kept the feedback was so good. And one thing the NC Idea program that I liked really emphasized was finding product market fit and interviewing people, like real people, as soon as possible. And it's just one of those things that even with the pandemic, as many people as we were talking to weren't planning on not buying cards. And it was one of those things that we knew it was going to come back, and we knew that the demand wasn't going away. So I'm glad that we kind of worked through the pandemic.
Definitely good for the spirits.
Yeah.
Well, I know something that Gary and I talk a lot about is really that customer discovery process of getting out there and talking with customers and trying to understand their problems, and do you have a solution that can help solve their problems? I mean, it sounds like you guys did this pretty actively during a pandemic. Were you doing it online? Did you get to people in person, or how'd you go about getting that feedback from people?
Yeah, no, I leveraged a lot of online communities. I'm actually part of a community for women in tech. It's called elpha.com. And it's a really just great place where people are very supportive. They go on all the time and say, hey, I'm building this. Can I interview you about this? What do you think about this? And that was one of my main research search points, because I think another reason cards have kind of been ignored by the tech industry is that if you look at the data, like 80% of card buyers are women. So I think that a lot of times when we were especially talking to people out like in Seattle, or maybe their family lived far away and it wasn't like a part of their lifestyle buying cards, they didn't really click, even if they see the number that it's a $7 billion market in the US, $7 billion in sales every year. Like I said, I think there's kind of a disconnect between, they think, oh, people are happy with it now, when people who actually buy cards all the time, everyone we talked to had a horror story about how bad their cards were. One of our friends was complaining because American Greetings was wrapping their cards in plastic so you can't see the inside, and he bought a card that he thought was going to be perfect for his girlfriend, and then they finally opened it up, and it had like this awful like floral font that he knew she would just hate, right?
Yeah, and more to that, I mean, it's not just customers. When we first got introduced to Earth Fair, for example, Earth Fair, for anybody who's unaware, they basically, I think they went out of business sometime in the middle of the pandemic, and they got bought and kind of opened 35 locations by a new private equity firm. But part of that process, we were kind of getting in there because, new company, you're trying to innovate things a little bit. But part of that product discovery, I think, was working with the retailers. Earth Fair has been fundamental to the way that we kind of bubble information to them, and how we kind of have to learn to be a business with those retailers. Because one thing that we have learned very quickly on is retailers are all very different. They all have a very different corporate structure. Responsibilities don't necessarily fall under the same people. So if you're doing sales, or if you're trying to do a product market fit, people might call them the same thing, but they have wildly different job functions. And so, it's something that I think was pretty fundamental to the process of just trying to design it. Same thing for the artists. We have a portal for the artists to upload their art. We're always trying to, improve on that. It's not the best right now for them, just because, there's so many features we're trying to put in there, but figuring out what they need, what tools they need to upload cards, what they need to, look into their data metrics. I think that's a part that's really just kind of going as we sell cards and talk and onboard people. So it's not all easy to pre-plan up front. Some of it you just have to build while you're climbing.
So I got a chance to, I met you because you guys were doing a pitch, or like a practice pitch down here in Hickory with a group down here. I'm assuming that have you done pitches to equity investors at this point in time? And why don't you share some of your experience with going through that pitch process, and are there some lessons that you can share with folks listening, if and when they get in front of potential equity investors?
Yeah, I'd say just when you go in front of them, just be prepared to answer any question anyone can throw at you. Because I think we've just had a lot of really interesting feedback, and that's where all the really interesting stuff. We plan out a whole slide, right? And we try to address as much as we can up front. A lot of people, things that we didn't know we wanted to have in earlier, that we started adding in, is things like exit strategy. I think that's something that we learned that we needed to include to help the conversation keep moving. But in general, like I said, the best parts come from actual interactions with the people in the room.
Yeah, and a little bit more to that point, I think the biggest issue that we've had early on, I think, is when you're getting a lot of feedback from private equity firms. You're talking to funds with tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars technically, and I think when you get feedback early on, the first time you get feedback, you take it to heart. It's an important thing. It's your first time pitching, but then after doing a few of them, you'll realize a lot of the advice will be conflicting, and I think a lot of the process is really. I just warn against, dropping everything to do this one thing that one single equity firm does, because, I think the phrase is the long maybe. I think a lot of times equity firms will tell you, here's the conditions in which we need to talk again in the future, but those are kind of moving goalposts. And really it's one of those things where no one wants to tell you no if they like you, because, obviously at the end of the day, if you get a good business model and everything's going great, they definitely want to be on board. But I think the worst thing you can do is kind of take some advice that might be more of like, cautionary investor needs, and then trying to incorporate that into your product. You could probably, we did that. The first couple we did, we started planning some features and stuff, and then we realized very quickly that would thrash us a little too hard. So
it's better to listen to your customers when it comes to that.
Exactly. Don't listen to the investors unless, again, some advice is amazing and you should definitely do it. But
I think that's really good advice, to not take the first suggestion, or kind of research if somebody tells you something. Okay, well, look into that as opposed to jumping at it and bouncing back and forth. Because you're right, they may have a certain mindset that doesn't fit with what you're trying to do.
Well, Steph, you mentioned that one of the questions that often comes up is exit strategies. And to me, often that you might be getting into this and not have given much thought about exit strategies. I mean, how have you guys approached that? And that is this something that you could envision being acquired by another company in the greeting card business, or is this something that you'd like to see yourselves continue with for 20 years, or if someone makes you an offer you can't refuse, don't refuse it. Yeah. So what do you guys think about the exit strategy piece of it?
Yeah, well, I think that's something that, I think that sometimes people make the mistake of, it's their baby and they aren't thinking about from the investor's perspective that their goal is to make money, and ultimately our goal is to make money, make a product that, is going to last, right, to build value. So I'd say that it's actually something that we look at early on because it helps us know what we need to do as well. Like we look at companies like Etsy is an interesting one because they don't have any physical presence, right? And we can actually go to like Etsy's like SEC filings and like look at things we're looking at with local art and see how we align with strategy. And we can say, hey, look at what this big player in the market is doing. And we feel a strategic kind of need that they might have long term. And it becomes like a really compelling, like a kind of, you can use that as evidence that the market is moving the way that you are hypothesizing that it's moving. And also players like Hallmark, we can look at how they just don't have the tech kind of needs, the tech talent that they need to do something like this. We always use the Instacart example, right? People thought that when Instacart came out, that every grocery store chain in the world just built their own app instead and do it themselves. But it turns out that building apps and maintaining tech products is really hard. And if you're running in a competitive market, it's not something you want to take the risk or the time in investing in yourself necessarily. So it's one of those things where we feel like we're in a good spot because we're focusing on things that the big players, they just don't have the resources or the specialties to focus on. But if we show traction, we could see like that Hallmark, American Greetings, even a retailer like a Walmart type, right? We think that we want to keep ourselves in a position where we know what they want so that years down the road, we could show their investors that we could be a good investment as well.
Definitely. And to that point, we are, this is bleeding edge technology. I think the reason why you really haven't seen something like this so far is because printer tech and pricing to manufacture a card on demand has not been something that has really historically been cheap, at least a good quality card. And so I think a lot of part of this, positioning for us, we're not obviously trying to exit too early, but I think there is a certain angle of, we see the market going in this direction. And I think, if you're looking at your startup and you're not planning on holding it for a very long time, the number one thing you really do need to be thinking about when you're talking to investors, even if you're not taking money, is really what is that exit event going to look like? Just keeping that question in mind can lead you down some very interesting paths, assuming you want to go down that route. But that's a whole other conversation.
Safe to assume now you're keeping your options open.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We fit in between a lot of different areas or sectors, and so I think, I mean, we're not trying to sell right now, obviously, but there's a very compelling case for a lot of people, I think, to look at us, and we've had those conversations to some extent, but it's pretty early. We're still trying to prove a lot of the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
No, good deal. Well, as we sort of wind some things up here, are there any other lessons that you guys have learned during your startup that you can share with our listeners?
I have one that's controversial.
No, we like controversies. Bring it.
One thing I really love about our cards is that it's like 100% post-consumer waste recycled, right? So no single-use plastics, the environmental aspect. And actually that aspect, when I was pitching to Earth Fair, being a natural grocer, they were so on board, and that was a big driving factor to them. But every time we talk to a customer, that is not what they care about in a greeting card, right? It's all about the actual art. It's all about the actual emotion with it. And it doesn't make a single difference, I think, in sales to people.
Yeah, it might not be true across all different types of items, but there definitely seems to be, it's almost more of a guilt factor. I think when given an alternative between an eco-friendly and a non-eco-friendly alternative, I think that's where it matters. I think but in a vacuum, it's at least, honestly, from the Earth Fare Natural retailer perspective, you figure it would be more.
Everyone we asked, nobody listed that as something important to them.
I think in a lot of ways, the brand does a lot of social proofing for you. Earth Fare is known for natural products, and I think that the shoppers just don't really think about it when they're in the store because they already kind of have that assurance that the products they're getting are, of that quality or caliber. And so they don't really think about it actively when they're making that purchase. But it's just super interesting.
But I guess that's a thing to learn, that the messaging that we have for retailers versus customers, they cannot be the same thing, because what is important is not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, another piece of advice: if you're going to do a B2B to C market, so three-sided marketplace, definitely try to have 3 people at least.
Yeah, it was a little hard with just the 2 of us.
Yeah, if you're I'd say a person per side of the business is ideal. Not saying that we haven't made it work, but there's been moments where we're like, why did we try to do this with only 2 people? But those moments come and go. You make better tooling to automate it, and so on and so on. So.
Well, I imagine it's a challenge to build out your team at this point in time, and you guys are partners in business and in life. So I guess you're stuck with one another for the time being. So.
Oh yeah, no, we're coming up on 12 years.
Congratulations, that's great.
Well, we'd like to have you guys play our lightning round with us, if you don't mind, to do some quick questions. Before we do that, before we do that, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Is the tight labor market frustrating you as a business owner?
Yes.
It is? All right. Do you have employees leaving for $1 or $2 extra per hour?
Absolutely.
Even at the community college?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Mako RX Complete Care is a quality healthcare solution that has allowed businesses to recruit and retain employees. To learn how Mako RX can help your business stay competitive, visit MakoRx.com. That's Mako-RX.com, or call 855-562-5679. That's 855-562-5679. Mako RX, healthcare simplified. And we deal with businesses that are young and have some employees. They might not be in a position to provide much in benefits. They should be checking out Mako RX.
For sure.
So anyway, thanks for sponsoring us, and we look forward to folks checking that out. We also we'd like to play our lightning round, which are quick questions that we're going to ask Steph and Brandon. Quick answers. You can answer individually or as a team. It is up to you. So our first question for you: what is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, just personally, like loud, annoying noises.
Okay.
That's.
Yeah, I think mine is repeated apologizing for no reason. I think that, I don't know, for some reason, for me, that's like one of those things. It's like, why? Don't be sorry. It's okay. Don't be sorry.
All right.
Well, specific.
I didn't mean to ask a difficult question there, Brandon. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
I got the same
Miami.
answer. Yeah, Miami, hands down.
Miami? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys
Food's
like
so
about
good
you, you like the weather? What's so great about Miami? You've been in the Northwest.
Weather.
What's that?
Yeah.
Weather, beach, and food. Definitely.
Yeah, I
like
the beach
those.
is a pretty big one. Yeah, I love the beach a lot.
Okay.
So yeah.
The fact that you're living in Asheville, I thought that you might be more mountain people. So okay, that's interesting.
Stephanie's definitely more than that.
Okay.
Vacation has to be different. Shake it up.
All right. Harry Potter, Star Wars, or Godfather movies?
Oh man.
That's rough. I feel like Star Wars is a mixed bag just because there's so many good and bad ones.
Okay, I'm going with Star Wars.
Yeah, I think we just have to go with the Star Wars.
Okay.
Love Harry Potter, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Do you have a adult beverage recommendation?
Oh man.
Anything from Dissolver. I like their sours.
Yeah, so Asheville has an amazing brewery called Dissolver. That's kind of our go-to, and they have the most interesting, like cheesecake sours, just
Weird
very
stuff.
interesting beers.
Dissolver.
Things that you, there's no, it's like DSSOLVR. Amazing brewery downtown. They're kind of new. They started in the pandemic, so.
Jeff's going to be there this afternoon, I
I'm
think.
writing that one down. All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Oh man,
Good answer.
that was so hard for me. Like Ben and Jerry's. Like if I was going to do like a Ben and Jerry's flavor, I would say something like just a classic, banana split. But in general, yeah, I like more of the things inside the ice cream more than the ice cream itself. So,
All right. Last question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
oh, that's an easy one for me. I've always loved the idea of having like a video game like save system, so you could save and restore old saves of where you are in time. I know it's a weird one, but I just love the idea of having that video game access in real life.
That's so good. Let's see.
It's a hard one for you.
I'm gonna pass. I have just too many options. I can't.
We'll let you pass. All right. We'll accept Brenda's. Well, we appreciate you guys playing the lightning round. Again, if people want to find you, where should they be looking for you?
In Asheville's Earth Fair to use the kiosk, and again, go to our website, cardstalk.ink. We're mailing cards, and they usually come within 3 to 5 days, free shipping. So
Yeah.
You can partake in Cardstalk Inc. now. It's Inc. I-N-K, Cardstalk Inc. So everyone should go and check them out. So we really appreciate you guys joining us today. We always like to wind up our show with Small Business of the Month. You guys have a small business that you'd like to share with our listeners?
yeah, actually, so we were in Raleigh a few weeks ago, and we actually got to go to the kind of grand opening setup party for something called The Factory. Their website is thefactory.community. And it's this really interesting space in like the warehouse district of Raleigh that they turned into a maker space type co-working. So instead of a co-working where it's just office people on computers, they have like t-shirt presses and like a laser etcher and all these like a candle making device, things that like makers who like make their own products to sell either online or in like local stores can actually go and use this equipment and work together and build great things as a community. And it was the coolest concept.
Johnny Hackett, he's the owner of Black Dollar Corp and runs the Black Friday market downtown in Raleigh. This is kind of like his newer kind of venture, and it's it's really awesome. Really cool to see in person.
Well, cool. All right. Well, folks should be checking that out, particularly if they are in the Raleigh area. So we appreciate you sharing that one. Gary, what's your small business this month?
I'm going to twist it a little bit. You talked about our Skills USA students and our entrepreneurship team, led by Christy Lefevers and her students, winning the state championship, going to nationals. Common Grounds, which is a unique concept for attracting high school and middle school and college kids into tea and different things, a hangout, but a cool hangout. I think it's going to be really good. I think they're going to do well at nationals. I also want to give you a shout out, Mr. Newell, for your Shark Tank, your high school Shark Tank that you held yesterday, which was probably a record number.
Had a good time.
And 20 to 30 students pitching ideas. We've been doing this now for 13 years, or in our 13th year, and continuing to see great performance, but that's because of your leadership.
Oh, you're the godfather of Shark Tank, Gary, so that's all right.
We're a team.
Yeah.
But you've led it into a really good thing. And what was amazing to me is not only had so many young entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, but they were really good.
They were.
Because we started out, the pitches weren't so good maybe 12 or 13 years ago. They were really good and very talented students, so I feel really good about that. And I'll give one last shout out to Maria's Pink Box, which is a food truck in Charleston. Great food. Sweets, of course, that's in my wheelhouse for our podcast, Small Businesses. But really good food. And then if you order ahead, you can get it in a pink box. So perfect for Mother's Day.
Maria's Pink Box.
Yes.
Okay. I know you're a fan of Charleston.
I am. We love Charleston.
Okay.
So it's, and I love food trucks, and I love seeing those kind of things. So
all right.
There I am.
Well, I ran across what I thought was an interesting new business. Gary, when I say sports bra, what do you think of?
Not you.
No? Okay. Well, actually, it is a new sports bar in Portland, Oregon, which is dedicated to women's sports, called the Sports Bra. It's their mission is to make great food, delicious drinks, and provide a space that supports, empowers, and promotes girls and women in sports and in their community. They feature cocktails from a women-owned distillery called Freelance Spirits, which they use to make their signature cocktails. They use beers from female brewers. And, of course, they've got a lot of TVs with WNBA and women's soccer team. I think in Portland is the Portland Thorns. Lots of college sports going on. We always talk about trying to find a way to distinguish yourself, and the Sports Bra has got a focus and niche where they're doing well. So
I really like that.
yeah, I've not been there. It's in Portland, Oregon. But if I was in Portland, Oregon, I would visit the Sports Bra. And you can check them out at www.thesportsbrapdx.com. So
Fantastic.
Joe Bob says check it out.
I'm into women's sports. Our girls growing up played all types of sports, and that's fantastic.
That's right. So if you have a suggestion for the Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email them to us at the eexchange@themesh.tv. We want to thank Steph and Brandon Prime for joining us today. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting us.
You should go to cardstalk.inc, and that's .ink. Check them out. We want to thank the Mesh Podcast Network, and a special thanks to Mako RX for supporting the podcast. You can check them out at www.mako-rx.com. So we look forward to seeing everybody next month, and have a good one.
Happy Mother's Day.